Hi, guys. Welcome to the TOWTalk, Town of Wallkill podcast with Neil and Denise. And today is Sunday, August 10th. And we've got a couple things to talk about. But
Hey
Neil,
guys.
say hi, Neil.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. So one of the things I was mentioning to Denise offline is, and something that's sort of near and dear to my heart, that I wanted to bring up is I wanted to, first start us off. I know we have a whole topic of conversation regarding gerrymandering today. We're going to talk about that today. It'll be a very fun conversation related here to the town of Wallkill. But I wanted to start us off by, August 8th, just this past week, was the birthday of Dr. George Tiller. I think that he's somebody that we should remember and recognize. He was assassinated back in May of 2009. He was very much
Yes.
a church-going man. He was actually shot in his church, with
Wow.
his family present. It was a very sad day. He was one of three doctors, right, in the United States. Three. That was it back then. There were only three who did late stage abortions. Okay.
Yes.
And if
Yes, I
and if
remember that.
you know anything about this man, if you've read the books on him, if you followed any of the stuff around him, you would know that he provided a service unlike anybody else, that you can possibly imagine. It was gut-wrenching to hear some of the stories that he dealt with. I mean, you're talking about, 10-year-old children, who were victims of rape and incest. I mean, it is absolutely heart-wrenching, what this man had to go through, the abuse, the harassment, all because he wanted to provide life-saving health services for women.
Right.
And that's really what it came down to. He wanted to provide life-saving health services for women. And this was women all across the United States. And he had a saying, um, a sort of mantra, that still exists today. You might have heard me say it, every once in a while. He used to say, trust women,
Trust women.
trust
Yes, you
women.
have.
All right. And it's two words implying that it is not for government, religion, men, or other social institutions to decide what was right for the individual woman.
Right.
When confronting one of most life's heart-wrenching moments, women were ultimately responsible for dealing with the consequences, good, bad, or their choices, right? And the real freedom, real equality, and real responsibility, right, included the right for women to make whatever decisions that they wanted for themselves, whether they be wrong or harmful to them, it doesn't matter. That's what freedom is. And we talk a lot about, various things about government. We're going to talk about gerrymandering today. It's all in that same realm
Yep.
of freedom. So
Exactly.
I wanted to take a moment of silence to honor him today, since it was his birthday the other day, and remember him. So if everybody wouldn't mind, it'll be really quick. you know,
Okay.
Take a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denise. I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're
you
welcome.
letting me start us off that way.
No,
So today, oh, sorry.
I absolutely agree. So I think that's important. And all right,
So
so let's go
today's
on.
topic, gerrymandering.
Yes, dominating the news lately. Uh,
Yes,
but this also affects us at the local level as much as it
correct.
does nationwide.
Why don't you give us some background as to why all of a sudden this is a hot topic? I know that you had a whole thing about, start us off. Tell us how this all kind of came about.
Let me get my notes up here. So, well, I don't came about because a certain president wanted to do mid-district or mid-decade redistricting in the state of Texas. And so now, as we know in the news, the state Democrats of Texas, I guess there's about 50 of them, have fled the state, and some of them have come here to New York to avoid quorum, which is getting together and voting on a new map, which would potentially lose 5 seats for the Democrats. And we just had redistricting. We had a following the census in 2020. It affected right here in the town of Wallkill as much as it did in the state of Texas. In the state of Texas, the difference between New York and Texas is New York has I guess it's independent redistricting. We put together a commission and they helped redraw these maps, where states like Texas, and now we just do what we want to do. And so they already had gerrymandered quite a bit and gaining some seats for themselves, the Republicans. And now, at the behest of the president, they want to do this again and gain 5 more seats in order to have a bigger.
So, I know that a lot of people will say, my ex, you always talk to people and they always go, my ex is responsible for this, my ex is responsible for that, right? So this is actually an instance where we can actually blame my ex.
Yeah.
I only say that because of the fact that she actually is related to the individual who gerrymandering was actually named after.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Wait.
In Texas, my ex is from Texas.
All your
And
exes are from Texas.
all my exes are from Texas, yes. And so, yeah, her a distant relative, was the person who gerrymandering was named after.
Oh my God.
Yep.
So
Yep.
lucky you.
Yeah.
So,
So something, and I think it's a great topic only because of the fact that, in the United States, right, the Constitution actually is clear on this, right? It's every 10 years, the government will count, every person. And it says every person, right? It doesn't say every U.S. citizen. It doesn't
exactly.
say, it says every person will be counted, okay? And it says that the district lines, or, and based on the number of counted people, right, we come up with this. Now, there are a couple of exceptions, right? I mean, back when the Constitution was written, we had slavery, and at that point in time, they had said that blacks were 3/5 of a person. We now
Yeah.
have constitutional amendments that say that is no longer the case. We have equal rights now for the most part. I mean, so this idea of redistricting midterm, is it really kind of flies against the face of what what our founding fathers really wanted.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. I mean,
um,
this is a power grab.
this is absolutely a power grab without a doubt. But I mean, so I sort of laugh at the same time because that's what gerrymandering is. I mean, so
Yeah.
you kind of really think about it. The United States is the only country, right? In only democratic country in the modern world where the politicians who benefit from these lines get to redraw their own
Yeah.
lines, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Pick
we're
their
real,
own voters. Pick their
right.
own
They pick,
voters.
right. That's essentially what it means. Is we're the only country where our politicians get to pick their own voters, and there's something to be said for the fact that are we doing that right? Okay, that's a question that really never gets asked, right? We love to say we're the best country in the world. We love to have these kind of statements, but here in New York, they came up with the independent commission to ensure, right, to ensure that the minority party had a say,
Exactly.
right, that it wouldn't be completely skewed and that elected officials wouldn't be picking their own voters, right? Like, I mean, that was the whole premise for creating the independent commission. But other states don't have it. In other states, basically, they pick and choose, you know, who their voters are,
Right.
politicians.
Yeah. And
And
so,
and we should ask, is that what we want in this country? You know, we talk about the electoral college, but this is just as important as the electoral college, even more so. You
yeah.
know?
Yeah. I'd hate to ask what that response might be. But yeah. And this is terrible because I don't know. I could say a lot of things about what I'm seeing here. Just unbelievable. Never thought that we would be where we are today, where we
This
would be
isn't.
fighting to keep our right to vote when we have or had a Voting Rights Act. And now the final section of that is going to be addressed by the Supreme Court as to whether or not that is legal. So we could lose it altogether. And who knows, maybe they'll bring back poll taxes and literacy tests. I
They
mean,
already brought back a poll tax, though. I mean, the poll tax
they
and the
did?
fact, I
That's
mean,
news to me.
for the most part, a lot of these states are now requiring that you have a valid state driver's license
That's true.
to vote. That's a poll tax because you're requiring somebody to buy something that they might not necessarily need to buy, right?
True.
So, and you're doing it as a requirement to vote. So, in certain, we have to keep in mind, like, what are all the iterations of poll taxes, the Jim Crow law, like, what are the iterations that we've seen over time, and how has the court ruled on these things? And the interesting part is that we have a different court now. The world has sort of changed a little bit, and and so therefore the laws are changing. And
Yeah.
listen, there's something, you know, laws back from the 1800s, right? Like, I mean, we could have that discussion about whether they're valid laws. I mean, to be honest with you, this Alien Enemies Act that is being used today, this is an 1800s law. Okay, this isn't a modern day law. This is a law that was developed in the 1800s and was used to intern the Japanese during World War II. I mean, enough's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I Nothing to me is more abhorrent than the idea of locking people up just because of their background. I mean, that to me is uh,
That's a whole other
that's a
conversation.
whole other conversation, right?
Yeah. And
But
and that's
but
that's coming.
but let back to gerrymandering. Our local communities are gerrymandered. Everything is gerrymandered, right? Like, you know, no matter where you vote and what you vote for, whether it be at the local level, your county level, your state level, everything is gerrymandered, okay? And it's been gerrymandered by the elected officials, right, who are picking and choosing their voters,
Right.
okay? And we recently, so every 10 years they go through this, and we saw this in Orange County where, I forgot what district it was, but one of the county legislative districts, Mike Paduch, our county legislator for, I think, 20 something years, he, I guess was looking maybe to retire or whatever and move on. They redrew his district, right? And it now became a Republican district where he is, and they made a new Democratic district. And so, I guess he decided to run again. He lost in a primary, but at the end of the day, that district was a Democratic district, and now it's going to be a Republican district.
Wow.
And they created a new Democratic district. So the idea being, we talk about our makeup of our local boards, right? Our local town boards and our local county legislature, but all of that is essentially been rigged
Yeah.
for one party or the other.
Yep. And do we really, really want one party, either party, any party, to dominate over everyone else all the time and not have flexibility, just in case the party that's in power does things you're not really happy about and want to make some change and then you can't. And that's
Well,
something to think about.
right. You look at some of these district lines. I mean, take a look at some of these district lines and how crazy they look. They're all over the place. I mean, we don't need to go very far. I mean, just look at the town of Wallkill. 40% of the residents within the town of Wallkill live within one ward.
And we have four.
And we have four wards, and they're all Democrats. So they have all the Democrats basically thrown into two wards. So as long as the supervisor seat is maintained a Republican, they will always have three votes, and they will always control the local board. And the person who controls the local board controls the local money and how that money is going to be spent and what that money is going to be spent on.
Right.
And there are different philosophical views as to how local government should be run. But all we see is, what our neighbors are, right? So you move into an area that has Republicans in government, that's all you're seeing is the Republicans, and you're thinking that they're doing a great job because they're telling you that they're doing a great job.
Right.
Right? How would you know any different?
Right. And I think, and it goes back to conversations that we had even last week when we were at the picnic, how people forget to focus on the local government and not, we're focused on the big picture and what's happening in Washington and at this, in Albany, but not focusing on what's happening right here. And
Right.
It goes back to this gerrymandering. You just said 40% of Democrats have all been sort of clustered together, so it dilutes the voting and allows the other party to have majority. And now, I have said there are things happening in this town that I'm not happy about,
Right.
particularly with regard to zoning and how zoning has been impacted. And of course, that's because the Republican majority is making decisions about zoning and throwing up warehouses in the middle of the woods in residential areas. I got a problem with that, and so having my vote diluted means I don't have the power of my own vote to make changes, especially if there's
And
a majority of people that want those changes.
I think you brought up a valid point. Not just zoning. I mean, what we're seeing now are huge changes, right, at the federal level to like the EPA. And we say
Yes.
to ourselves, right, okay, how does that impact us locally, right? Like that doesn't impact, everybody thinks these things don't impact us locally, but you have CPV right around the corner from the town. If they're, creating standards that are more lax for air contamination or air pollution, that would impact us here in the town of Wallkill as well
Yep.
as our neighboring city of Middletown. Right? And then you have the water. I
Yep.
mean, think about what I mean, the town provides water, roads, and sewer, right? Like,
Yes.
those are the basics that your local government does. Well, if you're saying that they're relaxing standards related to water, just a few years ago, everybody was getting the notices about the water.
Yes.
How our water was, there were
Not good.
right, that it wasn't good, that there were issues with the town's water. Those notices wouldn't be going out today. If those standards get relaxed, those notices don't go out. Okay? Then you have absolutely no idea. Okay?
As to what you're drinking, what you're
As
showering
to
in.
what you're drinking, what they're putting in the water, I mean, they just, what was it? They said, no, they want to relax standards related to fluoride being in the water, whether you agree with that or don't agree with that, right? The fact is, will you know whether it's being put in the water or not put in the water, right? What standards are your local government following? Will you have that information, right? If they do decide to change those standards, what we've seen here in our local community and what I've heard from other local communities is in all likelihood, those decisions will be made behind closed doors. And they'll be financial decisions, not what's in the best interest of the community.
The people.
You know,
Yeah.
the people, right? So it becomes a real problem if you don't have people who believe in transparency or transparent government, and people who are constantly telling you we don't have money, right? I mean, we deal with that in the town of Wallkill all the time, right? You know, oh, we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that. Meanwhile, there are just like pools of money all over
Right.
the place, right? Like, you know, a lot of people weren't aware that there was $700,000 related to the housing authority that was given to the town. Okay, they could
Really? No,
administer
I didn't
that
know that
money,
either.
right? They could administer that money any way they want. They could have done food banks. They could have done, you know, things that help our seniors. They could have done different programming. What did they actually do?
No idea.
Right. Nobody has any idea, right? But then they told people we don't have money, right? It's this idea you control the purse strings, you keep everything behind closed doors, you could tell anybody anything you want, and they'll never, and they're just going to believe you. And the idea is and I think what we've all determined, especially from this gerrymandering, you can't trust your elected officials, right,
Right.
to always do the right thing, and you should have a right and a say in what is being done in your community.
Yeah. And that's what it is. Not enough attention is paid to that. And I think once you start paying attention to what's here locally, then the big picture gets easier to decipher.
Correct. And so, like, you know, just as our county lines have been redrawn, you know, so what the public isn't aware of, and I'm sure people will be very upset at me for saying, here in the town of Wallkill, our ward lines need to be redrawn. And a
Yeah.
lot of people aren't aware of that. So, for the last decade or so, the Board of Elections has basically been telling the town of Wallkill that they need to redraw their district lines, their ward lines, because there are too many people in the third ward, okay, as compared to the other wards. Now, the two highest
That's
growth
our
ward,
word.
right? The two highest growth wards are the first ward and the third ward. So the third ward being Mechanicstown and Scotchtown, right? And you know, the first ward being sort of that Circleville area, which we've seen kind of, you know, grow with a lot of residential development. More high density in the second and third ward, or more the third ward than in the first ward. And you know, the people in the third ward for many years have essentially been disenfranchised. You know, I can tell you when I first got into elected office, I walked around, people didn't even know they lived in the town of Wallkill.
Isn't Wallkill a place in Ulster County? What is this Wall? What is this Wallkill? What are you
They
talking
no,
about?
they thought they lived in the city of Middletown.
Yep.
They thought they lived, you know, because their school
This
district is
school
in the city
district.
of Middletown. The school district is in the city of Middletown. So everybody just sort of like naturally gravitated towards it. So the
Wait, Joe
town official,
Di Stefano's not our mayor? Wait.
right. I used to get that a lot. Yeah, you work with Joe. No, I don't work with Joe. Right? Like, like
Oh, you're getting cut out. Hang on. Okay, try again. You were getting
yeah,
drowned out.
sorry, they have no clue. They honestly have absolutely no clue what municipality they live in and what resources they should be getting. And that was sort of and for many years they got disenfranchised as a result of that because all the resources would go to one of the other wards because they felt like, oh, well, you know, nobody's really representing the third ward, so we're just not going to give them anything. And they don't even know that they even live here, right? Like it was a way to, you know, and I went around and I told people, you live in the town of Wallkill, these are the services that you should get, you know, and it was very much they didn't like the fact that I would go around and I would get people up to vote get people to understand what their community was about, get them more involved in their community. They didn't like it because they wanted to be able to run the town the way they wanted to run the town.
Yeah, no,
They didn't want the transparency.
well, hopefully we're getting information out there and getting more people aware.
But this election cycle could change that, right? I mean, if they got to redraw these lines, right, the people that you have in office, in elected office, will tell you, right? Like this could either happen behind closed doors, right, or it can happen with public input.
So and that's my next question here. Who sets up the redistricting for the town? Who makes those decisions?
Town board.
And of course, it's up to them whether they want to put that to a vote or not.
Well, what they do is the only important people that have to vote is the board. That's it. They have to hold a public hearing, and they can do whatever they want. There was talk, as I remember it, of them wanting to move. I mean, this is a long, long time ago. I want to say maybe better part of 8 years ago, that the original conversation was to move wildflowers into the fourth ward.
And that's part of our ward, right?
Yes, that is currently part of the third ward. And from what I understand is that those people in wildflowers did not want to be in the fourth ward. So that's why it never happened.
Is there something wrong with the fourth ward?
No.
Is that like the redheaded stepchildren of Wallkill?
No, you know what? Every word. Listen, we're all neighbors. Every word is great. I don't know what their rationale was back then. I can tell you, I was their councilman, and I had a very good reputation over in Wildflowers as their councilman, and I don't think they wanted to change representation at that time.
Oh, Aw, see, loyalty's a good thing.
Well, I mean, who do you interact with? You interact with your local representatives.
Right.
That's what it comes down to, and so whether they be Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. As long as you're doing your best to represent the people in that area, people want to stay with you.
Right. I feel like that's something that's been lost with the way things are, that people don't come down and talk to their constituents, and so hopefully.
Not for nothing. That area was very, very Republican.
And yet they were happy to have you come, because you came out and talked to them.
Because I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. It didn't matter. It was just, you go down, you care about what they care about, and you try to help. That should be your goal.
That's the goal of public service. At least the ideological goal. And
I mean, there's not much partisan that you could do locally when it's just your roads, your water, and your sewer, and your police. I mean, like, what is there?
Well, yeah, all basic services that we need.
Right? What are you really getting into? You're providing critical services to people who need those services, right? Like, it's not there. There really isn't a debate about partisanship. I mean, there was a different philosophy, at least from my standpoint, about how the town managed its money and allocated certain resources. But at the end of the day, that could be deemed political. But you have to look at economics as a whole, right? Your finances as a whole. And unfortunately, here in the town, we were never able to do that because they wouldn't provide that information, and they were so far behind.
Right. Yeah.
But that's a topic for a different time.
Well, I know we have lots of topics coming. Maybe we're gonna have to do this. Maybe like do short takes that we cover something that's come up or some quick issue in 10-15 minutes on that, and then just post that. But
I think it does say what people, this election this year isn't one of your, like, oh, it doesn't matter, it's local election, whatever. There's a lot on the table this year. There's a
Well,
lot on the table for people to be thinking about, including the gerrymandering.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm wondering how how they're. I guess we have to. They're going to put to a vote whether or not we allow that redistricting to occur. Let me ask you a question. What's your personal opinion, given the the stakes that we have and how things are right now? What's your opinion? Do you think we should do this, or should we stick to our morals?
And that's a tough. That's a really difficult question. I mean, there we don't live in the world that we lived in last year.
Yeah, that's
You
that's
know,
exactly where I'm at. In a perfect world, no. In a perfect world, I would want redistricting to be done by population only. So many break them up by population, little squares. Not this. I mean, I remember going back. John Oliver did John Oliver on HBO years ago, like 12 years ago, was talking about gerrymandering. And he put up a map that I think it was Texas. It was literally like scribbles, like all little scribbles. Like that's how they gerrymander. Oh, well, there's a Democrat over here all the way 19 miles out from everywhere else. Let's go circle them and pull them in over here. So, these maps can go crazy. And it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense. And
I
we're,
think
but
I
it's not a
think
perfect world.
I think more so what concerns me most of all, more so than the math drawing, right? Like I mean, we can get into the absurdity of those who benefit most, right? Drawing those lines, right? Like it's literally like let's get a bunch of rich people in the room and they can draw up our tax code, right? Like I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
this is what we got, right? Like it's like let's get all the bank robbers in a room, okay, and then they can help us with security for our bank, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, there's just so much absurdity associated with it. I've always been under the mindset, right? Because like I worked in the business world, okay, and as much as everybody goes to this whole like, oh, like I don't know, everybody seems to be on this whole anti-DEI kick or whatever the hell it is. The fact is that when you're sitting at a table and you have to make a group decision, whether it be for your business, whether it be for your local municipality, whether it be for your, no matter what decisions that you're making, okay, when you get a group of people together, the worst thing that you can have is groupthink. Okay? Right? Now, for those that don't know what groupthink is, okay, it's when everybody agrees at a table for the sake of agreeing. Okay? It's this
With
idea
no
that
debate.
there's no debate, there's nobody who gives out an opposing opinion, there's nobody who, right? So you end up with usually end up with really bad results as a result of that, right? Like usually you don't end up with the best thing. And so there was, and I don't know the backstory as to where it originated from, but there was a theory of the 10th man. Okay? So you get a group of 10 people in a room and they all agree on something, okay? You pick one person and they have to go research the opposing view, come back and argue the opposing viewpoint whether they agreed with it or not. Okay? And what that usually entailed is that the original, discussion, right, the original agreement usually ends up changing,
Right.
okay, to benefit everybody. And we don't have that anymore. We don't
No.
have the 10th man in a room. We don't have anybody arguing an opposing viewpoint. And, when you get that homogenization, when you get that happening, it's bad for your society, it's bad for your local government, it's bad for your business. it's just bad all the way around. You need people
Yep.
from opposing viewpoints to give differing opinions. It just goes without saying,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know?
No, I believe me, I agree.
I
100%.
I gotta
Yep.
tell you, the one thing I hated most was being on the board and being called out for the guy who always voted no, or being called out saying, well, all the rest of us agree. You didn't listen to any other viewpoint. You didn't hear anything anybody else had to say. You guys went into a room, you decided behind closed doors what you wanted to do, and then you brought it, and then when I gave a different viewpoint, you said we're not going to listen to that.
Yeah.
Okay? That's partisanship. That's what
Yes.
you get when you have that homogenization. Okay? We we in New York never wanted that. It's never worked for us in any sort of real way, right? The reason why we have such great things here in New York, right? And why New York is such a great place to live and work and raise a family, right? Is because you have opposing viewpoints standing next to each other, arguing and advocating for their position.
Right. And negotiating for what's best for all versus making a decision. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which is what's happening. And so yeah, so this is so I guess we don't find out about whether this is going to take place until the election, I suppose. I guess we'll hear more from, as to whether the gerrymandering is going to happen or not.
Yeah, I think, it's going to take some time for that to kind of go out. But I think here in the town of Wallkill, I mean, we're going to have our first vote for newly gerrymandered districts, right, for the county legislative seats. So that's going to happen. And, you know, based on what happens this year on our local boards, could change, could end up changing the districts, where we currently live in our
Which
local
could make it
communities
which
too.
could make it better or worse. Um, you know.
I I look at it as you have one party in power that is looking to keep power, right? I mean that this is like any kind of gerrymandering. You have one party in power looking to keep power, and you have another party looking to gain power.
Right.
And that's why I kind of like I'm like why I froze to answer before is it shouldn't be about that. It should be
No,
about
it
the
should.
people.
Imagine if we all had policies that people voted for policies and didn't vote for control. Like the way things are right now, you have people making it. We have people who should be out having town halls and they're not out there talking to their constituents, but they're making decisions to stay in power versus just putting forth policies that people say, hey, this is a great policy. I would vote for you for that. Earning votes versus trying to steal them.
Well,
So,
it's the difference between a direct democracy and a republic. And we live in a republic, so we vote for the politicians that vote for our laws versus voting for our laws directly.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and you know, we could say what we want about that. My whole thing is we just need to elect better people. You
Yeah.
like,
See, well,
it's really
when are you running again?
I'm not running. I keep trying to tell her I'm not running. No, listen, I try, it,
I know it's a
it's,
challenge.
it, it's really challenging and it's really stressful and it takes a toll on yourself and your family, not for nothing. I mean, you kind of put yourself out there and you get people calling you who don't even know you, who never met with you, never spoke to you, and they're passing judgment on you, like they know something, because they heard something from
From
somebody else.
who heard it from someone else, who heard it from someone
Right.
else.
I mean,
Yeah.
these your local, call them up on the phone, ask them a question, like take the time to get to know them. Like don't just sit there and judge them based on what other people say, especially here locally, because, people are mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like people make up shit, and it's just like, enough,
Enough. Yeah. And
enough.
here's the thing. We're all local. You
Right.
can actually go and make appointments and maybe call up and have your council person come out and meet you, or you can go there and meet them. It's not like they're out in Washington or Albany or someplace where they're not accessible and they got ridiculous voicemails. These are local people that you can actually talk to and discuss issues that affect you and on a day-to-day basis here in the local town of Wallkill. So, so
And
that's
I mean, seriously, like, we are all local. I mean, there's a whole Facebook page devoted to attacking me, right? Like,
yes,
and it's been around for like now like 3 years. It's a big joke, right? But at the end of the day, it is me and my family,
yeah,
right? Like, my daughter goes to school in this community. She gets harassed at school, because of some of the things that get posted. Like, and it's ridiculous.
by her parents, you know.
Right, but it's ridiculous because it's just completely untrue,
Um,
right? It's people in office who don't like being challenged, right? Who don't want to do the right thing, okay? So they just want to sit there and attack you instead of just turning around and saying, you know what? Maybe it would just be easier if I did the right thing, right?
yeah,
But the right thing would mean giving up some control, and they don't want to give up control. And
right,
again, it comes down to power, control. Look at what the people are saying, and look at what the people are doing.
right.
And that's what I always go to. You looked at me. What was I? I wanted to keep, the idea of the work sessions being live streamed via Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you mentioned that in a previous episode.
Yeah, I mean, Town of Wallkill, that stopped as soon as I was no longer in office, right? Agendas being posted 24 hours in advance. I mean, you can look on the town website 24 hours in advance. What you have is a shell. They
Yeah,
post the shell, right? Like, there's nothing on the agenda. The agenda gets posted an hour before the meeting. Minutes being taken, there weren't proper minutes being done. There was a comptroller's report about minutes not being properly done and posted on the town website. How are you supposed to know anything that's going on if if you can't find meeting minutes, if there aren't videos showing you, and the agendas get posted the day of,
yeah,
right? We have laws in the state which clearly say, right, agendas have to be posted 24 hours in advance, and if you're voting on anything, you have to give the public an opportunity to speak.
right.
Is that happening in your local community?
Oh
That's the
no,
law. Is that happening in your local community? The answer is no, right? Look at your local policies of your local board, right? Like, just the same thing, the social media policy. Who has control of your social media site? Is it being used to provide information to the constituents who live there, or is it being used to promote, the elected officials, or promote their candidacy or campaigns? Here in the town of Wallkill, it's being used to promote candidacy and campaigns. It has nothing to do with actually providing information to the public. They aren't providing information to the public. No agendas get posted, right? No meeting minutes get posted. Nothing gets posted. You don't know anything.
right, right,
So if you don't know anything, you think, hey, they're doing a great job, because you don't hear anything, because the local media won't publish anything either. So you're like,
probably
oh,
because
well,
they don't
then,
know any more than we do.
right, they must be doing a great job.
So we need to
So,
go to town boards.
well, gerrymander, again, getting back to gerrymandering. This is why, if you have a local community that's gerrymandered, like we have a ward system, you have it gerrymandered in such a way where Republicans, can maintain control through that gerrymandering. That becomes important,
So,
and it impacts every single resident who lives in your community, whether you like what's going on or you don't like what's going on. They're your local officials,
Right.
So if there's something you like that the Republicans are doing, tell the Democrats, I like this. I want to continue this, right?
Right.
But I don't like this. Maybe the Democrat will do something different. Or
Right.
maybe it's not a Democrat. Maybe there's somebody else who will do something
An
different,
independent, you know.
right? But when people are running on the status quo and saying, I'm not going to change anything, okay, and you know that there is no transparency, there's no, then you need to vote for the other guy.
Right.
And you could always vote him out.
Right.
Don't stick with the thing that has gotten you nowhere.
Right. Right. If not, exactly. Exactly. Ah, very good. A lot to think about, folks. Go to your town boards. Get to know your local council people.
And
All right.
understand gerrymandering, you have a say. You have choices to make, and every 10 years it's important when they're doing when you're hearing about the census, that's the time to get involved
To get
and
involved.
run because winning a local election could impact who your representative is for the next 10 years.
Exactly. Exactly.
And if you don't like who is representing you, that 10-year census election could be really important.
Right. Right. Very good. All right. So let's move on to some funner things. I don't know
I
if you
thought
guys.
that was fun.
It was fun. It actually was fun. Yeah, it was fun. Very informative for me. Hope it was for you. So first of all, TOWTalk has a new Facebook page. I'm still developing it, but it is on Facebook. You can search TOWTalk or Town of Wallkill podcast, and you will find it. I've already put some of the videos up there, and I'll continue to put. This one will end up there. And also, I did see on the Town of Wallkill's official Facebook page that they had some photographs from the Town of Wallkill night out, which was was that like on Thursday night or Friday night?
Tuesday. Tuesday. It's, I believe, the first or second Tuesday in the month of August.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that was going on. I missed that. So I'm bad. I wasn't there.
First Tuesday in August every year.
Every year. Okay.
Is National Night Out Against Crime.
Okay. And so there's some pictures there. It was just a lot of people there from all different walks of life. I'm sorry that I missed it. I actually didn't know that it was coming up. Sometimes I'm so busy working, I don't even pay attention, and I should. I would have liked to have been to that.
And right.
Yeah, I think. I hope. I mean, there was a lot of people there. Did you go? I know a lot of officials, local officials, were there.
I didn't go. I didn't go.
Yeah.
I had to go to a concert. I took my daughter to a concert.
Ah, okay. Okay. No, I worked.
I was doing daddy-daughter time. It was daddy-daughter time.
Well, that's important. That's important.
Listen, not being in politics has given me the opportunity to spend a lot more time with my family and my daughter. So I'll take it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because being a council person is a part-time position, but on the books, but it ends up being very full-time. It ends up consuming.
A lot of, believe it or not, it's a lot of the things you do is in the evening.
Oh,
so,
okay.
You work during the day, and then it takes up a lot of your evening hours, and so it takes a lot of time away from your family.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure your family is thrilled to have you there.
Yeah, right.
And I think that the town is currently reconstructing the front walkway. That's supposed to go on for like another month and a half. So if you're going to the town, I think you got to go around the back to get in.
They have a lot of money so they got a lot of American Rescue Plan money, all right, and they, over the first 2 years that they had it, they didn't do anything with it. So now all of a sudden, faced with losing, I think it was like $6 million or $5 million, right? They were like, oh, we got to spend this money.
Yeah, before it gets clawed
Right.
back.
So you got the new sign out front, the new electronic sign. They're redoing the sidewalks. They're going to redo the roof, right? So instead of getting doing things for the community as a whole, right? They fixed up their space. They're fixing up their space. Right.
Yeah, could put some, I don't know, some blacktop on the roads, maybe build a sidewalk, fix a park, make a new park for kids. Or, nah. We need a new sidewalk in front of you.
Listen, there were plenty of things that could have been done, um, to help support the hardworking people in our community, which is very much a commuter town.
Yep.
And there could have been a lot more things that have been done to help. I mean, wasting all that money on speed humps probably didn't help to begin with. I mean, they spent like $100,000 on speed humps that you know before they even knew what they were doing and how best to put them in and all that other kind of crap. They just kind of threw them out there and they all got torn to hell.
Yeah.
Like most
Yeah,
people
I
don't
knew.
even realize, like they spent $100,000 for speed humps that were out there like a month, and then like you go to the highway garage, they're like these destroyed speed humps because like they weren't installed properly. Like there were just so many things that didn't know at the time.
I nearly got launched by one over on one of the streets. I'm in the van. I'm just driving through down a
Yep.
residential road off of Blummel, and all of a sudden there's this speed bump, and I just kind of went, "Whoa!" You know my van, how big that thing is.
Yeah.
It's nearly 10,000 pounds. Yeah, it nearly got launched. So yeah, I'm not a fan of speed bumps suddenly popping up nowhere in the road.
Well,
So
it wasn't done the way you would expect it to be done or should have been done. It was, a few people said, "Well, this is what we want," and rather than going out to your community and maybe holding some hearings and getting more input about the best places to put it, the supervisor wanted to win an election, and he just kind of threw them out there, kind of half-assed,
yeah,
and
now it's a mess.
it ended up wasting a ton of money. Like the first ones he put out were like 6 inches instead of 12 inches, so they didn't go across the entire road, right? So people were going around them. Like, I mean, there were like so much money was wasted. Like, probably close to $100,000 was just completely wasted, right? But the public doesn't know that was wasted money because it's not like they make any of that stuff public. It's not like any of their financial numbers ever get made public, you know?
Fuzzy
So,
math.
so, right. So people don't even know how much money they're spending on this crap.
Wow. Amazing.
Something that provides very little safety for people, unfortunately. And there could have been better things that we could have done
Yeah,
with that money,
exactly.
unfortunately.
All right.
Just the way things go,
This is why you need to be involved in what happens in your local town. So be involved. Be involved. Let's say perfect example. Look, I want to say this. You learned just a couple of weeks ago with the vote for the judge how important it was to come out and vote. And so glad. I hope that we helped with helping you make a decision for or against it. But either way, if it got you to come out and cast a vote, positive or negative, whichever way you went, then we're doing our job and keeping you engaged.
Yeah, I mean, voting is important, and understanding the issues and talking with people about what's going on in your local community. And, it was brought to my attention, one of the things that we highlighted was not just asking local officials, what their opinions are, but challenging them on their opinions.
Right.
The idea that they're giving you their point of view. So is there another point of view that the politician hasn't thought of? Or are they giving you all the information or only giving you enough information for you to agree with their opinion?
Right. And so that's what we're here for. We're here to challenge those norms.
And listen, ask us questions. Ask, you know, we're here to answer questions. We're here to help out. We're here to try to find information. If you have a burning question about, you know, what's going on, you know, ask. You know, we can do some digging and we might be able to find an answer for you.
Yeah. I actually, you can if you follow us on Facebook with the Town of Wallkill, Town of Wallkill podcast, or under TOWTalk. Maybe
Go talk.
I need to fix that. Maybe I need to make that fly off the tongue better. But yeah, follow us on Facebook. You can send messages to us through there, or you can. There's an email address. I believe it's Town of Wallkill podcast at Gmail. But either way, I'll put links that you can reach out to us. In the future, if we get more followings, we get more people, let us know what you think. Maybe we'll do a live broadcast. I got to work on how to do that as I learn, as I go through this learning process. But it would be great to do maybe a live broadcast, have some people post some questions in the chat that we can respond, and
And if you're
interact.
interested in being a guest, you know, reach out to either me or Denise. We would love to have you on. We don't care if you're in elected office or if you're just somebody who has some issues that you want to bring up. You know, we're here for local community.
Yeah,
So,
actually,
and the issues you may have, maybe other people have in their local communities, and maybe we can find a way to help solve those, or give people direction as to where to go.
yeah, exactly. Or like I said, I think I've said this before. If you have an event coming up, or if you're a new business to the area, want to be featured, just tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what you're bringing to the community, what you're hoping to do. I think that's also a great avenue to go. Just so we want to get engaged, we want to get to know you. We got to know our community, know the people in our community, our neighbors, our friends, as well as elected representatives. All right. All right. So I think this has been we got a lot in today's podcast, and so I'm going to get to work on putting this up. We hope you enjoy this. I hope you're enjoying our content. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It goes a long way to getting us promoted in the algorithm. And we will see you soon. Thanks so much. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye bye.